r/AskReddit by Redmond ETS. What is the worst thing you've ever done in the Sims series? One time I killed a Sim by drowning. Then I made everyone show up to his funeral in swimwear. So, in my most recent Sims playthrough, I found this girl that I really wanted my Sim to marry. Problem is she already had a husband, so rather than just doing the relatively normal thing and just increasing the relationship and convincing her to break up with him, I instead became best friends with her husband, convinced him to move in with me, and then drowned him in a pool so I could marry his wife. Then I moved in with his wife, who lived in a huge mansion, and killed the rest of her family because I didn't feel like taking care of the other Sims that she lived with, but I still wanted the house. It's not too sadistic per se, but it involved a lot of deaths. I wanted to make a church with a full complete graveyard. So I built a small simple structure, moved in a family of 8, get them all inside, remove the door, fill with fire. Yay, 8 new tombstones. Repeat like 9 times, and you've got a full graveyard of tombstones. Then I built the church and moved in a priest to live there and tend to the grounds. Unfortunately for the priest, the grounds had been tainted by the dark rituals of the past and several dozen ghosts would materialize every night. Tormented by the crowds of specters, he himself died 3 days later due to never being able to sleep. I built a haunted house and killed like 3 families for the cemetery. The game literally gave me a pop-up saying The Sims is a life simulation and that I'm killing too many Sims. I recently found out you can kill old Sims by overexertion in The Sims 4. My Sim is going around town banging all the old people to death, and once death shows up she proceeds to make friends with him. I'm counting up graves until my Sim can bang death. My teenage son decided waking up to his alarm and getting on the school bus was unimportant. So I locked him in a 1x1 room until he peed himself and died in the puddle. In making magic I had a brilliant dog called AJ who was loved by the whole family. He never had an off day and brought sheer joy to his owners. Decided to train my wizardry and get the spell that allowed you to turn pets into humans, so AJ could be even more a part of the family. He turned out to be the biggest freaking ass bag as a person and was abusive to his family, so we had to take care of him. I built a monolithic tomb and trapped him inside. The family stood out front playing music to him as he slowly starved. They bought a new dog and played with it happily outside his eternal resting place to torture his trapped soul. Eventually a dragon burnt down the house and killed them all. What a game. I made a guy who was a compulsive neat freak. Put him in a really surreal little house with a wedding buffet and a hamster or something. Deleted the door. Eventually he went insane from lack of cleanliness and depression over his little rodent friend dying, and starved to death once the banquet rotted. I put the resulting urn in the room. I then repeated an identical scenario several times, always keeping the urns in the room. Eventually the 10th iteration of this guy is up all night, every night, terrified of a parade of ghosts of himself. I briefly fell asleep while playing, and when I awoke, CPS had taken the child away while the parents were gaming. I had my Sim impregnate every female adult Sim in the game. He had a bunch of kids he never visited. All the men hated him, and the women eventually hated him because he was constantly cheating. Whenever the younger female Sims became of age, my Sim would impregnate them too. After a few generations, the entire town was full of half-siblings, which made them not want to mate together. They slowly died. This was The Sims 3 on PlayStation 3 by the way. I've never played the PC version. I'm sure that's 100 times more glorious. Okay, so I make lots of friends with my Sims, then I invite all of them over and lead them into a room in my backyard. The room has a refrigerator, sink, toilet, and bed. Then my Sim leaves and I delete the door. I have 10 plus in there already and I'm waiting for people to come over. I want the whole city in there. After a while the Sims decide they're done at your house and want to leave, so they keep saying goodbye while waving. But since they can't leave, it's a monotonous chant of them saying goodbye, 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 goodbye. It's hilarious. I made a house filled with swimming pools so that everything was on an island. with all of the constant swimming to eat, sleep, pee, play basketball, etc. Not to mention constantly changing from clothes to swimsuit and back, my Sims spent their lives in perpetual exhaustion. I wanted to see how many children I could have out of wedlock and still be an absent father. I would strike up conversations with every woman on the street, invite them home, seduce them, and ignore them. Rinse, repeat. Eventually my Sims family tree grew incredibly large with children I had never met. I think I got to around 40 kids or so. This was The Sims 3, so you could walk around downtown and hang out with your neighbors. Eventually, my Sims little black children started popping up all over town, easily recognizable in a game that has predominantly white Sims. Every time I saw a black kid, I would run away to avoid meeting them. They would chase me down the street with action events like tell dad about birthday or talk about school. Obviously I had to nope right out of there as quick as possible in order to maintain my status as the anonymous biological father of over half of Riverview's children. So one day I'm doing my thing as usual. I see a fine looking woman on the sidewalk. Can't wait to impregnate her and leave, I sadistically think to myself. This is my normal routine, of course. But something was wrong. No matter how much I talked to her, the flirty options would never appear. What the hell? Is she really the first girl to not be into me? And then it hit me. This woman I'm trying to seduce is my full-grown daughter who I've never met. Hence why the romantic dialogue was not available. I know it's just a game, but I think somehow I'm going to hell for this. I was always too lazy to actually build my own home from scratch, and so whenever I started a new file, my immediate goal was to move into the nicest house already on the map. Well, I scoped it out, and a nice couple lived there. So naturally, I had an affair with the lady of the house. Convinced her to divorce her husband and stay in the house. Married her. Moved into the house. Knocked her up for good measure. Divorced her and kicked her out of the house. It was a nice house. I found out my one Sims boyfriend was cheating on her with some neighborhood whore, so I had her go to his house, confront him, and then set his front door, which was the only door out, on fire. Bastards died. I felt nothing. I think this was Sims 2. I made a reality TV show house full of stereotypes, left them on free will mode, and had someone voted off every 3 days, based on whoever was the least popular. The person voted off was murdered naturally. I would train my son to be a good enough painter to do screenshot paintings. I then forced him to paint me naked or having sex with his mother or other women. I hung the paintings everywhere. I built an orphanage with 7 kids run by one little old lady. She loved those kids and treated them well, and they loved her in turn. Then one day, one of the kids decided to play with their rockets, which set some flowers and then the house on fire. She tried to save them, but succumbed to the flames. 1 or 2 of the kids managed to survive, but they never were as happy as before. I was starving my sim and he sneakily called up for a pizza. When it was delivered I made him throw it in the garbage. Then he cried. That's all folks. Thank you for watching. If you like videos like this one, why not like and subscribe for more? Have a nice evening.